Welcome back. This is Say It Louder, the place for discourse, and I just got a fresh baldy. So before my hair grows back, we're going to get right into the content. The first thing we need to talk about is, of course, the Super Bowl. This is the first Super Bowl that I've watched. I'm not really a fan of football. I've never watched a football game through and through, but for whatever reason, I was compelled to watch this one. Had the Eagles and the Chiefs, and of course the halftime show by Kendrick Lamar. The Eagles were tearing the Chiefs up for 3 quarters. I honestly thought it was going to be a shutout. I took a break for a moment, came upstairs to get my daughter. She was crying. She had woken up. It was time for her to eat. I came down and the Chiefs finally scored either at the end of the third quarter or right early into the fourth quarter. What's been on everybody's mind, what's been on the tip of everybody's tongue is Kendrick Lamar's performance. I thought that it was good. I liked it. The first time I watched it, I didn't think so. But, sometimes you need things to settle in a little bit. So I watched it again today. I watched it again for a second time, and I thought it was much better than the first time that I watched it. I caught a bit of the breakdowns that people had on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, all the different social media platforms. And with their context, I enjoyed it just a little teeny bit more. He came out standing on top of the GNX that was a symbol, was an ode to his album. Then he went on to make the American flag out of the people that were on stage with him, out of the dancers. The touch of having Samuel L. Jackson there as Uncle Sam, as an older black man, kind of chastising him and telling him, hey, you need to play by the rules. You need to do this in a way that's going to conform to what people want from you, not just go out there and do it any kind of way that you want. I thought it was an excellent touch. I thought it was a great performance. And one of the things that was a highlight of the performance that people didn't like was Serena Williams coming out. Obviously, it's not my wife, and I wouldn't like my wife to do anything like that. We got to think about this. Serena has been dissed by Drake in a ton of different instances over the past decade and a half since they dated. If you don't remember, there was a beef between Common and Drake over Serena Williams. They both had dated her, and then once her and Drake had a fallout, he started dissing her. She's married to the guy that owned or created Reddit. Long story short, people were not happy that she was performing as if it was their wife. I'm sure that if she was there performing, if she was part of the show, she cleared it with her husband, who's been an avid supporter of all of Kendrick's albums, but especially took up for him and congratulated him when he defended Serena in Not Like Us. They had SZA come out. That was another controversial moment. People said that SZA wasn't singing. I could see how she ended up in the Super Bowl with Kendrick and decided not to sing and lip sync instead. She did have some damage to her vocals after she released the Control album. I believe that was a headline for a while, and that's why we didn't get a second album for years. Even though I didn't like it, I would have liked for her to perform. I do understand it. We got to give her a little bit of leniency in terms of her artistry at a live event where she's going to damage her vocal, where she has a chance of damaging her vocal cords again, if that's to be believed, which I think it is. The moment everybody was waiting for the entire show was for Kendrick to sing Not Like Us and embarrass Drake. There was a bunch of talk going up into it if he was going to be able to perform the song or not because of the lawsuit, because Drake was trying to sue him and, well, not him. He was trying to sue Universal about the song, about them falsely promoting the song. But we learned in real time that it wasn't a false promotion. Kendrick saying certified lover boy, certified pedophile, he bleeped that part out. Then the song continued on. And when it got to the part where he said, A minor, everybody's favorite diss of Drake in 2024, the crowd sing it. They cut Kendrick's mic. He didn't say it. He let the crowd chant along for him. And whoever was in attendance, it seemed like they wanted their voice to be heard because you could hear it in the background. That means that Drake's claim that social media was falsely pushing this song, it didn't seem like that was the case at all. The song was exactly what we thought it was in 2024 and continuing into 2025. And then the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl, cutting any chances of a three-peat from happening. I've got a lot of Eagles fans that I'm friends with and that I see up and down my social media. So congratulations to you guys if you're an Eagles fan. And it was a good game. And it was my first time watching a Super Bowl and a full football game in its entirety, and I enjoyed it. And now that we have to go back to our realities, we need to talk about this return to work thing. Trump came in office saying that he was going to have all federal workers go back on site, and I made a video about this. I said that here in the DMV, we have a ton of federal workers. It's a hub for people to work for the government. I don't know if there's any other place that's specifically like that, but here it's prominent. there's a lot of the workforce that is either directly working for the federal government or subcontracted. It's not as bad as some place like New York or like traffic that I've seen in pictures and stuff on LA. It's not that bad, but it's absolutely congested.
All right, heads up if you're traveling into D.C. this morning, prepare for congestion on the roads, especially around Navy Yard. That's because thousands of federal workers are set to return to the office today.
Yes, already a busy morning out there. President Trump's order mandating federal employees return to work in person goes into effect this morning. Juliana Valencia live in Navy Yard with more on what's expected today. Juliana, good morning.
Good morning, Jimmy and Tony. You know, among the federal workers returning to the office, nearly 17,000 at the Washington Navy Yard, and this is just one of the entrances. You can see traffic lining up from this angle, and also you have a line of traffic coming from the other way as well. But traffic, the flow, it has been consistent. They've been able to get people inside the base despite those long lines. And base leadership, they tell us that they have been working with local government to handle all of this traffic. They're increasing manpower at their entrances, but say people should still expect delays. There will also be attendants monitoring parking, but people who can't find a space will be directed off base. The base only has about 4,400 parking spaces for all of them, and DDOT has also told News 4 they are going to monitor traffic signal timing if they need to do so. And we spoke to a federal worker and asked his reaction to all this traffic because he has already been going to the office.
Traffic is backed up considerably. This is amazing because I haven't seen this much of a backup in about 3 years. And so it's interesting. I hope people are ready for it. I hope they bring their patients with them. And it may be back to norm, but this is what we're right now.
You know, on our way in, we even saw one of those highway alert signs on 695 say to expect heavy traffic and to use the metro. You see the group of workers coming onto base right now. And Metro, they had their highest rush hour ridership on Monday last week, breaking records since 2020. But likely that could also break records today with the amount of traffic. Back to you.
Yeah, really. That line of folks waiting to turn in is pretty long. Thank you, Julia.
So we did see that the line to turn in, like the guy said at the end, it was pretty long. There's a lot of people that are coming right into this space in the Navy Yard, which is not that big of a space in DC. It's just one work area there. So they said there are about 17,000 people trying to get into a 4,400 space lot. Obviously, they're going to have to park somewhere else. They're going to have to try to find a garage or commute or ride the metro some sort of way to make sure that they get to work because it's mandated. There's no option. Of course, there's probably like a case by case where some people need to work remotely, but for the most part, everybody is coming back on site. I don't know if this is going to be something that is further considered now that we're going to see how bad the situation is, how bad the traffic is. But this did come down the pipeline after Trump's inauguration. I want to take a look at some of the comments for the people that are going to be returning to work. Let's see what they have to say. This comment says, I am a fair worker who worked from home since 2020. We were given the choice, telework 1 day a week or remote work. I live in a different state than the regional office, so the choice was remote. I get so tired of people bashing us because we work from home. I work 8 to 4:30 and it's monitored. I take pride in my job and actually work. This person was offered the opportunity to work either remotely or hybrid, like we discussed. Some people have moved out of state, they moved out of the area, they've moved to a place with a lower cost of living where they can have a better quality of life and their money can stretch just a little further. Because if you're not familiar with DC real estate immediately around DC, it's expensive. Whether it's Northern Virginia, whether it's like the Silver Spring area, and specifically in DC, the real estate is very expensive. Working from home doesn't inherently mean that you're lazy or you're not doing your job. Of course, there are people that are going to get over on the system. That's human nature. People want to do as little as they can for as much and get as much as they can on the back end. But there are people that take pride in the work that they do, and they are willing to give a fair exchange of their time and effort for the money and the salary that they negotiated. This is going to be the last comment. It says, as someone who works from home, I guarantee you the productivity goes way down in the office. There are just way less distractions at home. Granted, if you have an office, I can't do the small talk and eat lunch and talk for a half an hour. I just want to do my work and sign off. There are people that are going to appreciate the fact that they work from home and they're going to get after it. They're going to look at their assignments. They're going to interact in the meetings and do the greatest job that they can. And at the end of that workday, they're going to sign off. There's no commute. There's no having to, do the office politics before you leave. None of that. They want to come in, clock in, do their job, and then sign out and leave work at work, close their laptop, and be done with it until the next day. The first time I discussed, there were more people that had the sentiment of, oh, they're lazy government workers and stuff. But it seems like the comment section might be mostly people that either work for the government or they work from home, or at least sympathize with people in these positions, because it's not as negative as I was expecting. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was said that people were going to be working remotely or hybrid. So they moved out of the area thinking that they had the opportunity to live a little further, cut down a lot of those costs, and not have to commute either as often or at all. But now that there's a return to work mandate, they've got to get on the road. That's going to cost them gas. That's going to cost them a lot of commute time. That's going to clog up the roads and clog up any available space that there was for parking. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, and if you didn't know, I'm in the DMV area. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was still in the Army, and there was not a lot of traffic. I lived about 15, 20 minutes from where I worked, and I could get there with no traffic in 15 to 20 minutes. But when there was traffic, it's a 30-minute commute going to work and about 45 minutes coming home. And I don't live that far, maybe about 10 miles in total. So I can't imagine the people that are coming from areas like Stafford or Fredericksburg or somewhere that's way down 95. If you're not hopping on the HOV, you're absolutely going to spend an hour to an hour and a half just in traffic on the highway. Not to mention when you get to the Navy Yard trying to find somewhere to park. When you get to, Capitol Hill trying to find somewhere to park. It's going to be something to watch over these next couple weeks and months. If they roll back anything as far as how they're going to position people on site. Are they going to allow people to go a little bit back to remote work? Are we going to start seeing more people commute? Are we going to see something like New York did where they try to introduce a toll to cut down on people that are in traffic? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm definitely going to be watching it, especially because I live in the DMV area, and this is going to affect how people move in and out of the city during the business day, during business hours. I'm not a fan of the entire mandate of getting everybody back to work. They said in the beginning of the pandemic that it was more efficient, that people were as productive as they were off-site as they were on-site. Actually, they said people were more productive, and then they came back and said people are not as productive. So obviously, they're moving the goalposts to where they need it. With that being said, it is what it is. If you work in a place that tells you come back to work, you should do that, because nobody's quitting their job. Nobody's taking Trump's buyout or Elon's buyout to quit their federal job in hopes of getting some sort of stimulus until the end of the fiscal year. Nobody's doing that. So they're going to be coming on site. We're going to see more and more of this pressure on the roads and on the traffic. We talked about the stress that was going to be put on the roads. Now we need to talk about the stress that was going to be put on a Lyft driver's car. We already did the story about Dank Demoss. She tried to get into a Lyft. The guy said he wouldn't take her because he had tired tires, and she was going to put some stress on his suspension. She ended up filing a lawsuit. Now we're playing the waiting game to find out how far the lawsuit goes, because he was an independent contractor. We don't know if she's going to get money or they're going to dismiss it. Whatever the case may be, we're waiting to find out. In the meantime, she went up to the Breakfast Club to do an interview.
Good morning.
What's going on? Nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
Stormy. How you doing? Hey, Ken. How you, brother? You good? Nice to meet you, Keys.
Got it. Yep. This the only seat y'all got? What you want? What you need?
There's one more.
A bigger chair or something?
Is she already little? We had
That's what I'm talking about. Good. This is the accommodation.
There you go. You walked in and, you said the chair was too small, so we had to bring the part of the sectional for you to sit in. And you said something. You said, now this is what I'm talking about, accommodations, right?
Yes.
But we live in a world that's not always going to be able to accommodate people that are
But we
plus
should,
size.
though. We should, because we not all the same, you know? I feel like we should. Like, why not? I feel like a lot of times people think that bigger people, obese, the F word people should just be in a house. When it's like,
The
we
F
not.
word?
Yeah, the F word. I'm not
The word
gonna
that you can't say in your house,
Yeah.
fat.
You don't like it?
Oh.
I'm not saying that word.
Yeah, we don't use that word in my
Okay,
house
okay,
either.
okay. I thought you talking about the gay slur. I'm like, wait, I'm confused.
No.
No.
But I just feel like
They had to wheel out the entire part of a sectional for her because she can't fit in a regular chair. And she said she should be accommodated in the same way that the LGBTQ plus community is accommodated. They did say this in the full interview, so I'm going to steal their talking point for a second, and I'll put the full interview down in the show notes. She said she should be accommodated like that community. However, she has the opportunity to lose weight if she wants to. We're not talking about something that's irreversible. If you want to lose weight so you can fit in chairs and you can fit down the aisle of a plane or you can sit in the back of somebody's lift, you can absolutely do that. You want the world to bend to you because you don't want to change. That's not the way that the world works. As a society, we've decided that things are a certain way or a certain size, and that's the standard. You being as big as you are, and I heard that she was originally 580 pounds. She's down to 500. So she's lost 80 pounds. She's going the right way, even though she's not there. She's going the right way. She wants the world to bend to her instead of adjusting herself so that she can operate and have a normal life, have the average life. Clothes are made in a certain size for the average person. Chairs are made in certain sizes for the average weight of a person. Yes, they have things that are more heavy duty that can support different types of weights or different types of body sizes, but those things are not the typical. You never hear the conversation about this type of stuff with people that are too tall. Going back to when I was in the Army, I know I talk about my time in the Army a lot. I spent 12 years there, from the time I was 17 till 29. So it was a huge part of my life and a huge part of myself in the workforce. When I was in the Army, I'm 6'1", and you have to ride in Humvees. Sometimes you don't fit too good in the Humvee, and I'm only 6'1". What about the people that are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6"? My dad is 6'9". We had the same size Humvees from the time I was in to the time he was in and the generations after us. Nobody's making accommodations to the amount of leg space that we have. You have to get in where you fit in, literally. It wasn't in the back of the lift, but you want to be accommodated for the fact that you're not the average size when things are made for the average person. I made the point in my first video that if it was a couple of people that equaled up to 500 pounds, that there wouldn't be a problem. They echoed this sentiment in the interview. They said, hey, if it was 4 125-pound girls, nobody would say, oh, they're too big or it's too much weight. You know why they wouldn't say that though? Because the weight would be spread out over the back of the car. It wouldn't all be in one place like Dank Demoss is. She would be on one side of the car, putting 580 pounds on just that one side in the back on that tire. That's a lot of weight. Regardless of if you feel good about it, if you agree with it, that was almost 600 pounds. And congratulations to her for losing 80 pounds. That is an accomplishment. You are going the right way. I'm not going to talk about everything that they said in the interview. You guys can go check it out over on the Breakfast Club. But just like you're losing weight because it's a necessity for your health and your well-being, once you lose this weight, you will not need to be specially accommodated. It's not an issue if somebody has the means to help you and accommodate you, but the world is not going to change the way that it is or change the standards just because you are outside of that standard. That is not the way the world works. And unfortunately for you, you had to learn the hard way. If you like the video, like the video. Subscribe to me back here for the next conversation. And if you have any input on the Super Bowl or on people working from home and being required to return back into the office, or even Dank Demoss and her saying that we need to accommodate people that are plus size, let the world know. This is the place for discourse. Till next time, peace.